Okay, everybody, here we go. We are back, and now we are finally getting into Europe. And you've had a lot of European history in the past, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm tired of Europe," but they were incredibly influential. And let's just get right down to it. Rome has fallen; it's gone. So now, what are we going to do? Well, we've got the barbarians, as we learn the barbarians. And you see, you got Visigoths and Burgunds and Ostrogoths and Gepides and the Slavs and the Balts and the Vandals and the Franks and the Saxons and the Jutes and the Danes and just all sorts of folks here. And there's not a lot of order, there's lots of them, but they did have leaders, and eventually a nation that would form the foundation of France in the future would emerge. And that happened under the ethnic groups of the Franks. As you can see here, this is where most of them were. You have Burgundians and Alemanni, but they're going to get absorbed at some point later on. And during this time period, really we're looking at, I want to say, the 400s until, I don't know, maybe about the 800s. You're going to have a couple dynasties that are established. And the first dynasty that is established will be a group called the Merovingians that really were able to first push out all remaining Romans that were in this province out. And you see the dark green here. And then Clovis was crucial for the development, again, of the concept of a strong central king. He was very kind of dastardly, if you will. He eliminated his rivals very brutally, including his own family members. A couple famous stories said that he would often give speeches about how all of his family had tragically died and he missed them. And what he actually did this for was to ferret out anybody saying, "Oh, you don't have to be alone. I'm still here with you. I'm a cousin," or whatever. And then they would all have accidents. So, really kind of sketchy here. The most important thing, though, that happened during the reign of Clovis, who does rule in the 500s, was his conversion to Christianity. Now, this is going to be crucial and a tactic that is done by Christian missionaries in the future, which is this idea of, if you can convert the kings to a religion, then perhaps you can convert all its people. And that was crucial. If you see the picture on the bottom left there, that is Clovis being baptized. I guess, he took all his clothes off except for the crown, because we know crowns are important. Now, the Merovingians would go on for a while, but unfortunately, the kings were only so strong after Clovis, and they kind of started to fall apart and fracture. And what you got were basically nobility start to develop. And really, they were just the strong families that managed to actually carve out control of some land. Now, the next dynasty that eventually will be the successor to the Merovingians will be the Carolingians. And the Carolingians really start under Charles Martel, named as such, and we've talked about him before, as Charles the Hammer. It's a fantastic name, and here's him with a hammer. He actually had the title of the mayor of the palace of Paris. And basically, he kind of controlled, if you will, the duchy or area around Paris. He was not the king or anything like that, but what he was crucial and able to do was to unite the factions that had broken up after the Merovingians fell and bring them together, of course, for the dramatic victory at the Battle of Tours, which was able to stop the Muslim advance into Europe. And of course, had Charles Martel not done that, there were no other unified groups in all of Europe, and who knows, that whole area might be Muslim today. Now, Charles's son will actually take a title, if you will, of a lord, and eventually call himself king. And that is his son Pepin, who is known as Pepin the Short. And from all accounts, he was probably only about 4.5 feet tall. If you can see here, there was Paris, so that was kind of this area of Neustria, was an area that they would kind of be focused on. But if you look at the map here from 714 to 768, it's these areas, Burgundy and Gascony, that they're going to able to really start to bring under their control underneath Pepin. And Pepin is really going to get the respect of a lot of Frankish nobles and slowly but surely gain power for his family. And it will be his son that will reach the greatest height, and that is his son Charles, better known as Charles the Great or Charlemagne. And he ruled from 768 to 824. He was a conqueror. I mean, most of Spain, or really from the outer edge of Spain, if you will, but Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and even down into northern Italy. He was an absolutely huge man, 6'4", 6'5", which back then is just gigantic, especially being that his dad was 4'6". He had his capital at Aachen, which is in modern day Germany. And really, what he was able to establish was the central control of a king. He was very powerful, he was very driven. And for a while, it looked like he was going to reestablish the Roman Empire. If you see here, he had a huge empire. Now, I'm going to talk about these guys, Charles, Lothair, Louis, and stuff like that. But all of these three areas, as you see over the mouse, he controls. Then you have this area, which he didn't occupy, but this is even into Germany and parts of Poland. Okay, you see all of the Low Countries, and you've got the Netherlands and Belgium over here. You've got a good half of Italy, including Rome. And he was really, really important. He will reestablish trade both with the Byzantines and also the Abbasids, and most famously, the founder of the Abbasid dynasty, Al-Abbas, sent him an albino elephant as a gift from one king to another. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I would go for an albino elephant. And what he is going to do is use then counts and nobles to rule as like governors. And then he creates these, not like secret spies, but basically these guys called the Missi Dominici that would go around and check up on these rulers. Also, they would employ some spies. And all of these rulers knew at any point if they stepped out of line, Charlemagne would just drop his grandfather's hammer, if you will, and really, take care of them. What was also important later on, in the year 800, on Christmas Day, he was coronated the Holy Roman Emperor by Pope Leo III. Now, this is really important for a couple different reasons. One, the irony is that he was neither holy nor Roman, nor was he an actual emperor, but whatever. But the fact that he was crowned by the Pope. Now, for Charlemagne, he basically ordered the Pope to crown him to give him legitimacy, as I will explain later in The Power of Christianity. After his death, the popes will use this act of coronation to legitimize their power of saying, you kings are crowned by us popes, therefore we are higher, which will lead to some drama later on. But we've got trade going again. It seems like we might not dip into what will become the Dark Ages. Now we'll end up getting there. But then he dies. Now, yes, trade got reestablished, and yes, he uses counts and nobles, which in the end kind of is feudally, which we'll get to. But when he dies, he does the age-old Frankish custom of dividing the land amongst his sons. And as you can see there, his son Charles got modern-day France. Lothair got a good half of Germany and northern Italy. And then Louis got Eastern Germany. The problem with this is these guys weren't strong, and it just divided up the kingdom, and it's going to lead to further divisions and really the kind of establishment, if you will, of feudalism that will hamstring Europe for about 600 years. And so this period was dynamic, and you can see these interesting guys, and this is kind of our intro, if you will, to the period of the Dark Ages, just to give you a sense of what was going on, how things would be, and some really dynamic guys that did some interesting things that would impact the future. All right, make sure we get our notes and our comments, and I will see you guys tomorrow.